the Liberal Nationals will not be opposing this bill, but we will be moving amendments to improve it. Mr Acting President, in a previous motion moved by the crossbench, I spoke, in talking about victims of crime, I spoke about the need to change the culture, change the culture in the way that the justice system deals with victims, and indeed how government deals with victims. Because what I've observed over my time in this place, as a minister and as a shadow minister, is that with all the goodwill in the world, changes are made to address specific individual issues. But fundamentally, little has changed.
The background, as we know, is that the unintended consequences of the last well-meaning piece of legislation that was designed to protect victims inadvertently silenced victims who wanted to speak out and tell their stories. So we fixed that, but now we're talking about those victims, the families of victims who incredibly sadly have lost loved ones to sex offending crimes. This bill will allow the publications of details that identify a deceased person as a victim of sexual offending. It also introduces a victim privacy order scheme, which will allow persons close to the deceased sexual offence victim to apply for a court order to restrict or prohibit the publication of details that would identify their loved one. So in effect, this reverses the presumption that was built into the legislation that we passed last year, and it supersedes it.
Well, it must be deja vu that we're back here again, and it would be comical that we're seeing virtually the same bill for the third time if it wasn't for the countless victims of crime who have been dragged through the court process after court process to get to where we are. We need to share the stories of sexual assault wherever possible to destigmatise these crimes and encourage other survivors to come forward. I commend the bill to the House.
This bill provides clearer instruction about how to weigh up family wishes with the principle of open justice. However, never the twain shall meet. Perhaps where there is division within families, with one family member who wishes to discuss their loved one openly and publicly, and another wishes to apply for a victim privacy order. The consequence may be a lengthy legal battle, which could be emotionally draining and financially exhausting.
The Liberal Democrats support the intent of this bill and will support amendments raised by both Ms Patten and Mr O'Donoghue to limit the scope of the suppression. But the mangling of this legislation has been such a source of stress to some of the most vulnerable Victorians. I hope the passing of these amendments can bring some comfort. We can only hope that Victorian governments will listen more carefully to victims of crime in the future.
The complexity in these reforms comes from the many unique and deeply personal experiences and perspectives that have been shared with us. For some people, it is vital to be able to speak openly with no prospect of limitation. Others do not wish to publicly discuss the details of the traumatic death of their loved ones for personal, cultural or religious reasons, and they find it very distressing when this can occur against their will. I certainly consider it my job as the Attorney-General to ensure I listen to all experiences and voices and design a system that strikes the right balance.
The experience of every individual and their family is quite unique. There is no right or wrong way for them to experience the impact that the crime has had on their lives. And there is no right or wrong way for them to grieve and to honour their loved ones and their wishes once they have passed. While I support the overall intent of the bill, I think that we definitely need to conduct a review to ensure that it is working the way that it is intended, that the victims and their family are happy with it.
There'll be a review of the Act in around 2 years to see if it's fit for purpose and indeed go back to the people that generously gave their time in consultation process with the department in relation to this bill.